And now you see the generator being charged through a solar panel while at the same time feeding power back into my home grid. Welcome back to Cursed Mining. You have a solar generator, or call it power station. Charge it with your panels, but now your battery is almost full. The sun is coming up again and you cannot use up all of it. You have too much power and want nothing go to waste? This video is for you. There are multiple ways to do this. This is my simple solution and I'm a beginner myself and figured it out. So everyone can. Let's go. The star of the show is this Soyosource inverter. It takes an input, say solar panels or batteries, and then ties into your home's grid. That means the power it puts out can be used directly by your home appliances or mining rigs, saving you power in the process. Why I prefer this model is because it has its own mode for battery, which is rare to find on smaller inverters. I specifically wanted a 12-volt version for discharging of low power devices, and this is the only one I could find. If you want to do this with 24 volts or higher, the choices are wider as well, either from the same brand or say the Sun 1000. I also grabbed one of those and it currently ties my balcony panels to the grid. Of course I got it for future experiments like this with potentially bigger batteries. What the battery mode of the Soyosource does, it turns off the MPP tracking, meaning the inverter will not try to adapt to differing voltage coming from the panels, depending on the sun, but will draw as much as you tell it, through a dial on the machine. Before we connect things, let's talk solar generator or power station. I never know what's right to call it. My test subject is a Bluetti EB70. That's my first and only solar generator for now. I wanted to have lithium iron phosphate when going to buy any type of battery and basically my learning device. It was never charged by anything else but the sun since I got it, which makes me happy. It's a little bit too small for running a mining rig overnight, by the way. We are not there yet. Stay tuned. Next up, you have to decide which output you want to use for feeding the inverter. A note on more powerful discharging later, but for the small generator and 12-volt inverter, I decided also to go for the 12-volt DC out of the generator. So for this whole output side, we get 12-volt and 10 amps. Not much, but enough. To connect, I took one of these 12-volt DC to MC4 cables you often get with the power stations themselves in order to charge them. Just for the inverter, we don't really need the MC4, so I connected it directly with ring terminals. Of course, you could still go MC4 in order to stay flexible, but I got this Soyosource for discharging only. I have to admit I like the inverters so much I got a few more for more experiments. Please subscribe or stay tuned. I'm using a smart plug on the grid side to check what I'm sending into my grid, as well as we can compare it to the output of the Bluetti with nothing else plugged in besides panels to check how efficient the inverter is and how much we lose in the conversion. Before giving it any output, we turn the inverter on, dial it to the far right to enter battery mode. The LED will turn on and now you can use it to decide how much power you want to draw. The very lowest setting you can go like this draws 35 watts from the generator, while 28 watts arrive at the grid. With this solution you can go up to around 105 watts before the power station starts to act up. It makes sense on 12 volt 10 amp max, with it probably leaving some tolerance. This small generator is 700 watt-ish, with a bit more than 500 of that usable, so it would empty pretty quickly with 100 watts anyway, but maybe an option for people wanting to grid tie in the morning before the sun comes up. Here we come to the first limitations of my little system. I found no way of automating this, because at least the output of the generator has to be physically activated. Stopping is no problem, of course. Even for an unregulated battery, the Soyosource inverter has a protection to stop drawing power when the battery goes to a certain voltage. In our case, the Bluetti will shut off before that. Starting is another thing. I can start the inverter through the smart plug, but on the generator side, at least I need to activate it manually. It's not ideal yet. There are hybrid inverters for automating this. And in my research I found even more interesting things, with people using their electrical vehicles as batteries for their home, tying in unneeded power overnight and so on. That's amazing, but let's say we are far off from that. Yet. The solution I went for, and also the reason for going for the smallest Soyosource, is to simply try to always keep it running, just at very low power. Say let it discharge continuously into my grid on the lowest setting, so the generator never gets fully charged and wastes any sun time. But at the same time, with say 40 watts of discharging, I can go through the whole night. Of course, if it's not a sunny day, you rather drain your battery instead of filling it, but you simply would have to stop outputting. By the way, for bigger batteries or even bigger power stations, I would go a different route. You could also just use an actual power supply on the main sockets of the generator and then connect it to the same type of grid inverter. But then you could go for the bigger 1000 watt, 24 volt or 48 volt options of these or similar machines. As I only have the EB70 for now, I'm happy with the low power discharge solution. Regarding the power station, I'm not 100% happy about the solar charging limitations on that bad boy. It says it takes 200 watts, but that is limited to only 8 amps of max solar input, which makes it hard to achieve those 200 watts. Otherwise, I like it though. I'm not sure yet what will be the future of the channels battery-wise. Let me know what your recommendations and favorites are. That's it. The solar generator will now never be charged for nothing, and every watt hour I don't need is saving me power. There are more applications for this. Say if your electricity company charges you different rates at different times of the day, you could decide to tie in more during those expensive hours while charging up again during the cheap ones. It depends on your situation, but I love to have the tools to be able to direct power in whatever direction I need. That was a very specific video today, but in my own research I could not find too much beginner-friendly content on it. And since I'm a beginner on solar myself, I thought to share it. Honestly, I was jumping with joy when this worked. Of course, professionals watching will love and probably not do this with a solar generator, but regular batteries. Then you could automate all of this. But yes, I'm not there yet, folks, but you can be sure you will see the videos of the journey to get there. Thanks for tuning in. We do everything from technology to cryptocurrency tutorials and hardware mining. If any of that interests you, please subscribe. I hope all of you are doing well. I wish all the best to each and every one of you. Happy mining and bye!